It's great.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, Mahesh. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening for the webinar on Master of Arts Admissions, the MA program at Srishti Manipal Institution. My name is Kush Patel. I'm also the MA program head, and I lead the MA in Contemporary Art Practice program. And with me are my colleagues who are each course leaders of the respective MA programs, and we'll go through what the MA specificity is about at Srishti Manipal, but also what each of these courses, 5 in all at the moment, have to offer in terms of your creative and artistic and academic ambitions. So what you see here on the opening slide is a welcome note with a set of images from student works of the recently concluded Interlude, which is a 4-week project that takes place between semesters and where graduate students across MA and MDes concentrations come together to convene around a shared theme. And the responses are various along the arts and design spectrum. And this is a sampling of what that looks like. Also, in terms of housekeeping, just wanted to let you know that this webinar is being recorded. So you will be able to access it later on Srishti Manipal's YouTube channel as well. And if you have any questions, please feel free to use the chat bar. Post those questions as we move along the slide deck. And we will take the questions in the order in which we receive them at the end. So thank you, Aparna, for shepherding the slideshow. And with that, if you can move to the next slide. Okay, thank you. So what is the MA program all about at Srishti Manipal? You would have come across Master of Arts offerings in traditional humanities departments, but what makes an MA at an art and design institution, and in particular Srishti Manipal, distinct from programs elsewhere is the simultaneous focus and engagement with the fields of arts and humanities, comprising specializations and curricula, where making is a lens for theoretical reflection, and where what is made is a subject of critical inquiry. So the MA programs, from animation to contemporary art practice to experience design, filmmaking, and visual communication, all coalesce around this idea of making and extend the concept of making in unique ways, unique to their programs, but also unique to the kinds of career practices specific to those programs. And we encourage students, and we bring those lenses as practitioners, as academics to each of these programs, where making is not just seen as a technical process of building something, but really is a lens for theoretical philosophical reflection, but also where things that are made with hand, with digital technologies, with analog materials is also a subject for your critical inquiry into the world. And this kind of a reciprocal relationship between what is made and how the process of making invites critique, but also constitutes a form of intervention in the world is at the core of postgraduate arts program at Srishti Manipal. Next slide, please. Yeah, Aparna, if you could just help us move to the next slide. Thank you. And what does this translate into? What this translates into is that we are very conscious of how we think about skill and the relationship of skill to knowledge at the Institute, but also across our programs. So what does it mean to reposition skill as a keyword for empirical and theoretical inquiry? What does it mean to make tangible how we learn, how we research, how we engage with communities, technologies, primary material sources, and also public scholarship? And then what does employability mean with an MA? So traditionally, MA is a useful stepping stone into pursuing a PhD or seeing oneself in much more of an academic or scholarly careers. But here we are also expanding the idea of employability to build public practitioners in arts and design organizations, as cultural organizers, and as researchers. And this is what really drives our approach to practice, where we go beyond the binary of skill knowledge where we really make tangible and not dwell in the realm of abstraction, but we really make tangible how we learn, with whom we learn, and with what we learn, and then what becomes of the career in the courses that you pursue as future practitioners. Next slide, please. So coming back to this question of employability, what are the career prospects with an MA? Individuals interested in the practices of critical scholarship, creative arts and media, who would like to advance careers in the arts, technology, and cultural sector, who would like to ground your current skills in research and public practice, but also, as I said, pursue further studies in a PhD program. So these are some of the broader ways in which the career prospects within MA get to be shaped. And at the heart of it, MA concentrations prepare students to develop a solid theoretical, historical, philosophical, and material foundations to practice, including your relationship to practice. So at no point, again, practice is seen as a technocratic activity, but rather seen as something which is grounded in one's positioning to the world, but also grounded in scholarship, and really standing on the shoulders of giants that have come before us in our respective fields. There's an emphasis on adding criticality to practice, including academia. Collaboration is key, and that you will experience both within the program as you get to collaborate with peers, but also with faculty and with non-academic partners, and engage distinct communities and publics in the process. So on the one hand, as much as we are geared towards thinking and engaging with communities and publics out there, we also encourage students and future practitioners to think of who are the imagined publics of your work, and which ties in back to this question of employability as a broader sort of way of being in the world, of really being practitioners in the world. Next slide, please. And that's a good segue into inviting my colleague Kathika and Anita to walk us through MA animation. Over to you, Kathika and Anita.
Thank you so much, Kush. Yeah, you can go to the next slide, Aparna. Yeah, thank you. So good evening, everyone. The MA animation program here at Srishti offers an expansive framework for students to explore the possibilities of animation. So we welcome students from various backgrounds, but they all share this passion for the moving image. And our program is for self-driven learners who are eager to experiment and take risks and shape their practice to address contemporary contexts through the powerful language of animation. So as you can see here, our core values are our playfulness, unhindered imagination, social responsibility, and cultural innovation. So the curriculum itself is designed to provide a somewhat foundation in animation techniques, storytelling, film language, and all while fostering creative experimentation. So students get to work across a spectrum of techniques, whether that's hand-drawn 2D animation or 3D animation, stop motion, experimental methods like sand or oil on glass, to name a few. And students will encounter multiple opportunities for collaboration and interdisciplinarity, as Kush was mentioning, through the various units, seminars, and workshops that we offer within the program itself, as well as beyond. Next slide, please. And so, yeah, here are some of the labs and the facilities that are available to our students. They're all dedicated spaces that we have for stop motion, 3D rendering, any kind of live action shooting, and as well as sound. I would like to hand it over to Anita to take the next slide.
Can we have them? Yeah. Okay, so the culmination of the 2-year MA is a capstone project. And in animation, often this is a film. And it's a film where, to go back to what Kush said, we see a practice as a sort of lens for critical inquiry. So each student will think about the questions that they are going to, kind of look into and really come up with ideas which are original, which are expressive, which are personal, and which may not actually always be a short film. This is often the output, but it may also be an installation. It could be a performance. It could be video art, that has a substantial kind of component of animation. So we're really excited by this intersection of art, media, and technology. And we're sort of looking to have students who are happy to experiment, happy to take risks, and to kind of create works that really push boundaries. Okay, I'm going to hand over now to the next department.
Okay. Okay, so thank you. Thanks, Anita, Karthika, which brings us to MA Contemporary Art Practice. This is the only program of its kind in the country. You would typically hear of an MFA in Contemporary Art Practice, which is more professional, requires a bachelor's in fine arts for students to be able to pursue that. But an MA in Contemporary Art Practice started last year, really rooting the question of making, theorizing, researching art and cultural production in society. So students in the program come with an art design background, but there are also students who come with humanities and social sciences background, really thinking about what it means to build artistic explorations that draw from art history, media and cultural studies, translation and literary studies, critical technology studies, and gender and sexuality studies. So the idea is to really encourage, foster one's relationship to art, broadly construed, but definitely at the intersection of art, technology, and society. And that's how our courses and our course offerings are also structured as modules that would take you through each of these different modes of artistic practice, but nevertheless grounded in arts and humanities education as a way to really foster critical ways of engagement. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, the curriculum focus areas include fine art, which includes public art, social art, text and performance, digital humanities, which is thinking with technology, but thinking about digital arts and ways of creative digital storytelling, community archiving, and then moving image art. These are the four modes in which artistic practices will be fostered. Students get a foundation across each of these four modes in the first year. And in the second year, they do a deep dive and pick up an area or two of personal interest as a way to enhance those intersections much more specifically. The MA in Contemporary Art Practice is also connected to, and it extends itself into labs and centers on campus. Currently, we've listed 4 labs, but there are more in upcoming labs with which we are in conversation. The Just Futures Co-Lab is around questions of critical digital humanities, queer feminist, trans feminist ways of thinking about media technologies. Art Science BLR works around sound ecologies, again, thinking at the intersection of media, art, and technology. Leela Artist Research Studio is focused around much more contemplative ways of positioning oneself in relationship to the world and the environment. And then Blank Noise, which is an art and activism platform, explicitly focusing on relationship of gender, activism, and art. Next slide, please. So what are the career prospects? When I said MA in Contemporary Art Practice is the only program of its kind in the country, it is really geared towards preparing individuals to what is emerging as the GLAM sector, which are galleries, libraries, archives, and museums. And this is how we sort of think about both the program, but also we foster ways in which individuals can sharpen their own artistic practice along any of these modes, whether it's fine art, public art, digital humanities, moving image art, or text and performance. The idea is to really develop professionals who would contribute discourse, who would contribute to building publics in art and cultural institutions, academia, publishing, galleries, archives, and cultural platforms. Next slide, please. And to sum it up, this is one of the examples of a recent student work, which was all about generative audiovisual immersive experience connected to questions of caste, gender, and technology. And the project was titled Access in Access by Anu from year 1. And this is just to give a sampling of the kinds of work that students take ownership of as they think of their own careers being practiced whilst they're in the program, but also moving forward. So thank you. That's a wrap up of MA Contemporary Art Practice. And with that, I will segue into MA Experience Design and invite Vineeta to take it over.
Thank you, Kush. Thank you for that lovely invite. So I am here to talk about the MA in Experience Design. And this is again an MA program which is guided by inquiring into our practices. And what you see here is essentially an iceberg model that I have borrowed from Jesse James Garrett's 5 Elements of User Experience. It's essentially talking about how we look at technologies and just the surfaces, but there is a lot going on in the background in terms of a lot of depth that's required in terms of how do you look at technologies that shape our worlds in our everyday worlds. So I borrow from Lucy Suchman, who talks about how computational artifacts extend beyond the interface, but they have to really be part of people's lives and their ongoing activities. And therefore, how should experience design then be? So this is where we want to say that it's really different from the typical definition of a UI or UX practice, which looks at either the interface or the experience design from the user's point of view. Here, we're kind of expanding that definition to look at it more holistically. And therefore, Aparna, if we could move to the next slide, then we can talk more about how we are looking at experience design as practice, because we position ourselves with the fact that you can't really design experiences. You can only create situations for experiences. And how do we then create for situations for people to experience something? How do you curate artifacts, environment systems, or services for people? And it is when we can meaningfully bring it together. But then how do we do that? It's so much more than templates and tools. If we could move to the next slide. Yes. So here I would want to talk a little bit about who then is an experience designer. So we define an experience designer essentially as a transdisciplinary thinker maker who really immerses themselves in real world contexts and then tries to look at the entire experience journey, not the usual journey maps, but much more beyond that, from the technical, moving away from the tools and templates of how the practice of UI or UX is done today. So essentially what we are trying to build is towards people who can inform upcoming technologies and how do they really do that. So the goal is to have people who are skilled with getting to the essence of what's an interaction or what's an experience. And then what they build is also a combination of things. They could be hybrid, digital, physical, phygital. It's not defined by, okay, I am designing for a digital space. We start ground up, essentially, through our research. We decide on which medium it would be. Aparna, if you could move to the next slide, please. Yes, so in a sense, how is it then different from a typical UI UX project? You have 2 examples from our current capstone students, Anjali Naik and Veda Shetty. They're both working with understanding or really critically inquiring what is the role of technology today and tomorrow. So you have Anjali's project, which looks at role of hand in digital engagement and how do we imagine our hands being shaped by technologies, and can we reverse that and imagine technology shaped by our hands? So kind of critical inquiries around that. And Soma Plus is again the experience of actually using healthcare products around our homes that are very easily available today, and how can you re-look at the anxiety that, say using a BP machine, for example, produces when you can't get the reading right. So how can you really thoughtfully engage with these spaces that technology leaves as gaps and then critically design for that? So that's essentially the broad practice of doing experience design. The spirit is looking at the experience first and then moving forward. So with that, I will invite the next speaker, Unni, who will talk about the next program. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Vineeta. As we go into the course, the filmmaking, MA in filmmaking, it started with a need for us when we see that filmmaking, film education is broadly like there have been 2 ways of looking at it. One is pure filmmaking, the other is film studies. We see filmmaking is one where you learn how to make films, and film studies is where you actually talk about films. In this course, we felt there was a need not just to learn about filmmaking, but also to talk about it. Let there be a critical inquiry into what you're making. So that is how we started this course, and we see how we nurture new technologies. Yeah, the new technologies, because filmmaking is intrinsically technology based, and so we have constantly the way the codecs have changed, and how you shoot the cameras and the sensitivity to the world outside is it's changing constantly, and so you need to know that. Our sound studios are so well equipped, and we need to know all that. But beyond that, we also look at new forms that have come in, just the traditional classical way of narratives. Beyond that, you have we talk about documentaries, we talk about experimental films, and the gray areas between them that you inquire into. We also would look at narratives, how narratives are being built, how we construct narratives, and how it has changed over the years. And today you would see very beautiful narratives which are not there like 30 years back in cinema. So even in mainstream cinema, I would say. Now this space of MA filmmaking, our MA space is more for self-driven students. When we say self-driven, is students who come with some kind of a understanding of cinema and about films. So it's not a beginner's course. We don't consider this as a beginner's course. Most of the places outside in the country, you will see a post-graduation or a UG courses. Usually they are all beginners courses, but here specifically we decided that it would not be a beginners course. It would be a course for students who have either engaged as young practitioners or have studied in a UG course. And so it's a space for self-driven students who come in and with the line of inquiry that they already have in mind. And so these 2 years, you already start with an understanding, and then you take it ahead. Could we go to the next slide? Yeah. Our curriculum will include film art, looking at cinema as an art form, aesthetics, the aesthetics of cinema, the different theories that has emerged out of it. We would look at writing for film specifically, be it for a feature length, a long form, for short films, for web series. We would look at how the aesthetics of writing for these different forms also change, and understand how we can create pitch projects when you go out. Film techniques, so some of the modules would specifically deal with film techniques of cinematography, sound design, editing, director's craft, all those things would be. And then a very beautiful thing that we have in our courses, that every semester has a project. One of the module is a project, that is you purely make something, a film, a short film, or a documentary, or an experimental film at that sense. And it finally ends, the 2-year ends with a capstone project, which would be totally in a mentored space, and you would be the practitioner, the young practitioner would actually work with a faculty who themselves are practitioners. So that is one thing we have. The faculty in Srishti are essentially film practitioners. They're ones who have made films. They have multiple awards, and so they are, for them, teaching is strongly connected to their own practices. We also have some initiatives. One of them is a moving image lab, through which we allow the teachers, the faculty, and the students, for them all to make their films and engage in a very critical inquiry into that process. We also have a film club, essentially run by the students, but very closely mentored by the teachers, so that the way we sequence the films that are shown, also we go through the history of cinema in a sense, and also explore the different movements, very relevant movements that has happened within it. Yeah, the next slide. Thank you. Now here, what does this course offer? It will the student will through these 2 years will very closely engage with the international arena. Specifically, we are talking about the world of grants and film festivals. We would look at how they can, when they are out of the finishing the course, they know how to work with grants, how to access them, how their films are relevant in film festivals across. Again, this course would also look at how we consider practice as a research, so that you take this now with PhDs also encouraging practice-based research. This would also look into that very closely, so that academically the student would be able to go to the next level and take it up as a research. Also, it would be the person, the practitioner would come out with a high level of proficiency, and that is what we look at. Looking at it, the finer nuances of filmmaking, rather than just learning how to make a film. Thank you. We could move to the next person there. Yeah.
Hi. Aparna, can you move to visual communication, please? You are on mute, Aparna.
Yeah, I was just saying, so something happened to the screen. I'm just going to get back to it.
Okay.
I think, Aparna, you were on the same path. It's good. We just have to switch the tab to the one that you have the slideshow open. That way we'll be able to see the slideshow.
Aparna, you're on the mute.
Yeah, now if you go to the tab on MA webinar, if you just click on that, not on the Zoom one, but the one next.
Right at the top, right at the
Right.
top.
Yeah.
It says 07 MA webinar.
Yes. And at the bottom, if you go to this slide is good, but right at the bottom, right next to the percentage scale. Thank you.
Yeah, presentation mode. Okay, hi everyone. I'm Kumkum Nadig. I head the program MA in Visual Communication, and with me is Aparna. She's the head of studies for the same program. We are here to talk to you about what MA in Visual Communication program entails and what you could hope to learn. So the main vision and aim of this course is to engage our learners in envisioning contextually meaningful communication solutions. Here, the emphasis is on the words contextual and meaningful. That's really, really important for us. Can we stay on the first slide, please, Aparna?
Oh, yes. Sorry.
Also, this course places a very strong, first slide, please. first slide of MAVC. Yes, that one. Thank you. Also, this course places a very strong emphasis on the comprehension and processing of visual information. And in this way, we encourage our students to integrate the 6 key domains of visual communication, which are aesthetic, function, historic, symbolic, perceptual, and cultural. And this approach then helps our students to develop visual literacy, visual thinking, visual perception, imaging, and also representation. And in turn, that helps them to create impactful communication material in the areas of branding, packaging, publication, illustration, digital design, motion design, and so on. This particular course actually is, in fact, all the MA program is inquiry-based learning, and we actually encourage our students to have their own lens of inquiry through which they can actually engage with design processes and various research methods. Can we go to the next slide? Our graduates actually function in these 3 key domain areas: business or corporate, artistic, as well as environmental. So the business area or the corporate area is where the students get hired in businesses that offer services, businesses that look at brand communication and brand marketing materials, businesses that are into publication, including children's books or large format publications, as well as design innovation labs that are housed within large corporates and multinationals. Under the artistic umbrella, our students produce work that is experimental, exploratory, deeply conceptual. They engage in personal projects, and they actually combine design thinking with artistic approaches. When it comes to environmental issues, we have seen our students work at NGOs, students engage with social communication and activism, and as well as they actually come into educational institutes to teach and pursue an academic career. The following slides have some examples from these 3 key domain areas. This is work from one of our students who graduated a year ago. And this is the work a student has done working branding, and then another student's working digital design or UX UI design. A lot of our students get hired by large corporates and multinationals such as Adobe. There are students working at Google, students working at Decathlon, students working at Target, and many other companies. So branding and UX UI and digital design also form an important part of our curriculum. Next slide. This slide shows the work done in the area of social, cultural activism, experimental approaches to work, experimental approaches to letterform design, font design, looking at social issues and doing a visual commentary on it. And students with this kind of inclination work with, largely they work with NGOs such as Dakshin and the Ashoka Foundation. And the last slide is about, again, doing experimental and artistic work. These students come to Srishti to hone their skills, their artistic skills, but then they kind of merge it with the designer skills, following design process, and thereby achieve a very unique visual language in their work. And they actually fitting almost anywhere, including large corporates or NGOs, or even go into education. We actually currently have 3 of our graduates teaching at Srishti, and finding their career shaping up very well. So yeah, that's it from us, from visual communication.
Oh, Aparna, if you could continue screen sharing, please.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You
And
can go to
Aparna, if you would like to add anything to visual communication before we segue into admissions.
Yes. Just a minute. So, as Kumkum mentioned, it is a place that I personally enjoy working in because it's such a great opportunity for bringing together research-led inquiry as well as creative practice. There are also opportunities for working on projects. There's the disciplinary project, and there's also the transdisciplinary project, which we call the TDR, and that is where you can bring your own, you could work with facilitators on an area of research, and you get a certain amount of time to explore and to work towards something. It could be output driven, it could be research driven, and that is something which I have run 2 years in a row, and I run the memory lab, which has been at the TDR space for 2 years. And when I say transdisciplinary, memory, as you know, is not confined to any particular discipline. So I have been exploring, for example, something like human memory, non-human memory, or artificial intelligence. And as students, you get an opportunity to work with such laboratories that are not, sort of not in any sort of a cohort, but it's, a vast space where which has opportunities for multiple disciplines to come together and to even go beyond. So I just wanted to close on that note.
Thank you. Thank you, Aparna. So this slide that we have paused on is an important sort of moment before we transition into the admissions process. But just take a moment to look at all of the different program heads leading each of these courses and their email addresses. They are also available on our website, but we'll just hold it for a second or two before we move to the next slide. This includes members of the PG Academic Office, Vishwanathan, who is the Principal Academic Coordinator. We're also joined by Seema Vinod here on Zoom. And Seema is also a wonderful colleague in the administration, always ready to answer questions that come her way. And likewise, you've heard from each of the course leadership members, and these are their email addresses. So please do feel free to reach out to us via emails, and we'll be more than glad to answer all emerging questions, in addition to those that we'll be posting on the chat bar, which we look forward to addressing. Aparna, if we could move to the next bit, please. Okay, so let's get to how to translate and continue the interest that you have in the MA programs at Srishti Manipal into admission. The admission tests consist of 2 parts. One is a statement of purpose, which you submit with your application. And the second one is a presentation of evidence of competency, which kind of feeds into the interview process as well. And this is to be submitted at the time of application and presented at interview. Now, how are the two different? If we could move to the next slide. Great. So the statement of purpose is a much broader statement that all postgraduate students, irrespective of your focus area, are expected to write. It's an essay where we want to know what motivates you to pursue graduate studies, what motivates you to pursue graduate studies in a School of Art and Design, but more specifically at Srishti Manipal Institute, and the kinds of backgrounds, traditional, non-traditional, art and design, non-art and design, that you come with in order to sort of make home for yourself at Srishti, but also in the programs of your choice. The evaluation criteria for statement of purpose include clarity and purpose, organization of thought, description of relevant experience. Again, we do not mandate that you need to have a BDes, which is a bachelor's of design degree, or even any form of art and design background to be able to enroll in our MA programs. And that's the kind of richness of the MA, that it really brings in a world of backgrounds to think with critical artistic and humanistic tendencies, and then lends itself to thinking about careers more broadly. Next slide, please. And how is that distinct from evidence of competencies? This is where you become narrower in terms of thinking of your relationship to the program of choice. So if the statement of purpose is a broader introduction to who you are, your background, and your interest areas in pursuing postgraduate studies, evidence of competency is providing samples of work, whether it is artistic, scholarly, single-authored, collaborative, academic, professional. How each program lays it out is very much specific to each program, which you'll be able to navigate on the application portal. But this is where we really get to sort of see some evidence of how you're preparing yourselves, orienting yourselves to the programs of interest. You're not expected to have just a single interest in one program. So if you're thinking about more than one program, your evidence of competency will be tailored to each of those programs. So they're not kind of rubber-stamped applications, but really thinking about, let's say, what is it about filmmaking that interests you? And in addition to it, what is it about animation that may interest you? And then what is the kind of evidence that you provide for each based on what their criteria might be? There is seat exemption. So applicants who have taken the SEED 2024 examination can choose to be exempt from this particular test if your all India rank is 500 or below. And this cuts across not just the MA programs, but also those applying to the Masters of Design field. Next slide, please. Guidelines for evidence of competency for each course and corresponding evaluation criteria, as I mentioned, are made available along with the application forms. So if you go to the application portal, the link we have included in our last slide as well. It will take you to the specific program, and each of the programs' evidence of competency will be listed there as well. But if you have any questions that come up in terms of building your evidence, building your portfolio, building your statement of purpose, again, please reach out to program heads. We are more than glad to walk you through that process as you plan to submit your application. Next slide, please. So what is the admissions timeline? We are currently in round one. We have opened round one admissions. We opened it last month, and it will continue through the middle of March, which is when we expect all of the first round of applications to come in. The interview and counseling will happen online in the month of April, and the results will be announced by the end of April for acceptances to come rolling in May. Stay tuned for round 2 and round 3 announcements, which will be announced very shortly. But the idea is that it gives applicants across different programs and preparations to really think of themselves applying to Srishti Manipal, not being limited to just a single round. So all of our admissions, entrance and aptitude tests, calendars, and information therein is posted on social media, on our website. So please do stay tuned, and we'll be more than glad to walk you through. If you're particularly having more questions at this round, you can always apply in round 2 as well. And we look forward to your applications, which brings me to the last slide, I believe. Yes, and this is a link to microsite. It's a fairly simple URL, apply.srishtimanipalinstitute.in. So if you go there, it'll take you to the portal. You'll have to register with the portal in order to create a form, and that will lead you to all of the 5 MAs that we have listed. We also have a new MA in the offering, but we'll make that announcement shortly as and how that gets to be approved by the Board of Studies. But for now, we are very excited about the 5 MAs that we have on the roster. They're like beads in a necklace, so don't think of them as individual MAs that don't speak to each other. They're distinct connections across these 5 MAs, and we really look forward to having you be part of Srishti Institute. So with that, without further ado, let's open it up for questions. Thank you, Aparna, for staying with the process of guiding the slides. If you can just stop sharing screen, then we can have all of us in a gallery view. And please use the chat bar if you're comfortable. And if you're comfortable using your microphone, Mahesh, you could guide us as to who's raised their hands. and we could answer the questions accordingly.
I don't see any, they can type their questions on the chat box. I've enabled that, but I don't see any.
Okay, let's give them a minute. There's a lot of information that we've thrown at you, literally. So take a moment to process. And even if it's just something that, struck you or you were intrigued by, feel free to just have a conversation with us. There are about 8 of you in the room. So if you'd just like to introduce yourselves as to who you are, aspects of your background, we could just begin there. Okay. So thank you, Monica. Your question is, should we submit the EOC like we do for a portfolio piece? Great question. So Monica, we make a distinction between evidence of competency and portfolio. Portfolio can be quite, there is a certain kind of an expectation with the portfolio, particularly around visuality, particularly around design skills. And we're moving away from it to sort of say, what kind of broader evidences that you can share, whether in textual form, whether in visual form, whether in mixed media form, that aligns with the kind of interest that you have in the program of choice. So feel free to think outside the box, really share ways in which you are thinking and orienting yourself to the program of choice and not worry about the finiteness and the kind of visuality of a portfolio. I hope that answers your question. Next question is for Vineeta. Oh, Aparna, yes, you have your hand up. Oh, we can't hear you, Aparna.
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
You've
So I
turned,
think
yeah.
I just spoke to Monica today.
Continue, please, Aparna.
Yes. So yeah. So Monica, you got my mail. I replied to your mail with regarding your inquiry about the EOC. So I think that explains a bit about what Kush mentioned just now. So since you're applying for MAVC, you could accordingly decide the relevance of the work that you're choosing to upload. Thank you. No, that's no problem.
Vineeta, would you like to take the next question, please?
Awesome. Yeah, hi, Riona. So I hope I got, I'm pronouncing your name right. It's Riona, I hope. But hi. So essentially what you're asking is about the EOC. What we really want to see is how you're thinking and approaching your work and your process. So please don't worry about you not being off the field. Then why would you come and join us, right? You want to explore a new field. You want to get deeper into what is experience design. So it's absolutely fine to share how you have essentially thought about your practice, your field through your EOC. Like you mentioned that your background is in graphic design. So help us understand how you have approached graphic design as practice in your work. So I think that should be sufficient. Yeah. Experience design, we'll think about it when you join. So don't worry about that at all. I hope that answers your question. And if there's any follow-up question, I'm happy to answer that as well.
Yeah, may I add something? The inquiry about EOC has been quite a few, and I understand that that's a bit of a concern for most of our applicants. Please remember that all of our MA program are firstly multidisciplinary and also encourage graduates of other disciplines. So we are not really expecting you to come with skill sets in the program that you wish to join. But we are looking at your affinity towards that program. So that's something that you need to understand. We are really not looking at you having a very strong experience design or film or animation or visual communication design portfolio. Because as Vineeta said, then you really don't need to come to us. But whether you have the affinity towards engaging with this particular kind of curriculum, that's what we try to determine from your EOC.
Kumkum, I think there's another query for MAVC about whether illustration. Joanna wants to know if illustration and typography are a part of the curriculum.
Yes, Joanna, they are. I think our prospectus is uploaded on the website, and you should be able to look at it, Joanna.
She says she remembers seeing it, but it isn't there now.
Oh, Mahesh, is that?
She says she saw it in the disciplinary intersections on the website before, but don't anymore.
Oh, I see. Okay, we'll look into it because all our prospectus should be available on the respective program or the course web pages. Yeah, but yes, typography, publication design, illustration, these do form part of our curriculum.
Yes.
Seema, you're here as well. Are
Yeah.
there common questions that have come your way that you would like to throw
I
light
think,
on?
hi everyone. Yes, I think this 8 or 9 people I must have spoken also once because they have all interested students. Yeah, the common question, like Kumkum mentioned, is about EOC. I mean, the kind of word scares them, I guess, evidence of competence. So, but yeah, thanks for explaining that because Kumkum has put it very neatly. What is the difference between a portfolio and a EOC? So I would also tell the students not to get kind of bogged down because it's asking for EOC and I have to know about the particular course. It is just that you have to show your affinity, like Kumkum said. So go ahead with you don't really need to think so much that you need, like, whether I'll be able to submit an EOC for this particular program, whether it's good enough or not. Whatever you feel like, you please put it down and submit it. And when you have the interview, definitely you can express whatever you want to with the panel.
Thank you. Thank you, Seema.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions for us or observations or things that got you excited about what you found out in today's slideshow?
Any one of you have any problems or any difficulty is in filling up the applications or you want to know a bit more, please feel free to write to us or call us on the help desk number which is there on the website. We will guide you through the application process and we can also connect you to the concerned faculty whose email IDs you just now saw and whom you met, and you can come and meet them or you can email them and find out more about the courses if you want to. Any more questions? You can even speak up, put it off, and because we are a smaller group today, we can discuss more. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask.
There is a question, how is MA and MDes degree different, from Monica?
Okay, Monica, let me try answering that question. So Well, first of all, the offerings in MA are the ones that you just saw. The offerings in MDes are currently in the realm of human-centered design, in the realm of industrial arts practices, in the realm of information arts and design practices, and in the realm of design-led innovation. One way to begin to sort of see these worlds distinct from each other is the nature of professionalization that happens through an MA versus the way students are professionalized in the context of MDes. In MA, as I mentioned, we look at questions of making, but root them in their respective histories, philosophies, larger scholarly and community orientations, and have you as individuals develop a critical relationship to making, whether it is film, whether it is aspects of visual communication, whether it is contemporary art, whether it is animation, or even the idea of creating contexts for different kinds of experiences and experience design. So MA very distinct from MDes. MDes is oriented to professionalizing students in the realm of incubation, in the realm of orientation to much more established industrial, non-industrial practices, in the realm of innovation, where there is a certain sense of technical proficiency expected, but also criticality that is embedded in the context of design. So that's one broad way in which we have sort of thought about the distinctions between MA and MDes. MAs are also, as I said, much more expansive in terms of their backgrounds or the student demographics. Whereas MDes typically has had students come in by virtue of them already being trained either in engineering, art and design disciplines, or even those in computer sciences, and sometimes even in the arts and humanities who would like to have a career shift. So there's a conscious way in which students make a career shift for MDes versus a sense of continuity and expansiveness to careers that is afforded by an MA. And others could come in to add to this discussion, but it's something that we are really proud of how we have come together to define MA for ourselves, both within Srishti, but also how we have really, really occupied the space very uniquely across colleges, universities in India and internationally. Monica, is that helpful?
In fact, I'd like to add a word to what Kush just said. So we attract students, say for experiences, and I have a student whose background is in sociology, another student whose background is in psychology, and the kind of unique perspectives that they bring to the practice of experience design makes the whole space of learning very rich. So the diversity afforded with the expansive nature of the kind of students that can do an MA actually lends a lot of peer-to-peer conversations and learning spaces to how we kind of navigate this program. So I do find it a very rich space to actually do experiments with how you can extend your practice. It's not really trying to answer to what is expected at the end of the journey of doing a program, but also exploring how do I take what I've already learned and then work that and what I'm learning as a practice now and kind of bring it together and see what new things I can do with it. So it's more theoretical and experimental and more open in that, in terms of the space provided by an MA. And that's how at least we try to nurture our students. So I just wanted to add that bit to the conversation. Yeah.
Yeah, Vineeta, that it's true. This is something that we were all thinking of, even when we were designing the MA for filmmaking. Like I mentioned earlier, there's this gap wherein I have always found filmmaking courses, even if it is a PG course, it's purely, it's engaged with making, but then there's no critical inquiry into it, or it becomes a kind of a course where you learn how to make. I mean, that's it. But here I found that this is a very unique space here in Srishti, wherein we have this PG courses where we not only just make, but we also inquire into it. We evaluate it, think about it. We have some kind of a contextualizing that work that we have, the artifact. That's very important. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think this is a
Aparna, go ahead and then
question.
wrap up. Oh, great. Is there another one?
Yes. It says the slide mentioned that the SOP should explain how our research topic aligns with the chosen course. So could you elaborate on the research part?
So thanks for that question. Again, think of research in a much more expansive inquiry-based way. It's not that you definitely come with either evidences of having researched a specific area of interest or having been trained in research methods, but the idea is to what are you inquiring into? And what kinds of projects, even academic exercises or collaborative works that you may have done outside of your schooling in the professional world that can provide evidence to that kind of inquiry into the world, because that is what we are sharpening in the context of the MA over a period of 2 years. At no point is it without inquiry, and at no point is it without reflecting on the criticality of your pursuits. Yeah, I'm just mindful of time, Mahesh. We are at 7:02. If there is a question or two still burning for any of you, please do share them on the chat bar. And if not, yeah, go ahead, Mahesh.
Yeah, if not, we can close. Otherwise, if there is, we can go on for another couple of minutes. Not a problem.
Yeah. And I'm glad that last question of distinction between MA and MDiv got asked. And as we were each sort of responding to it, it's quite befitting that, Mahesh, you've also called this webinar MA Freedom to Experiment. And I think that really translates and embodies the spirit of MA at Srishti Manipal, which is to say, how do you experiment, whether it is theoretically, speculatively, historically, philosophically, but what is it about experimentation, making, thinking, discourse building that all comes together? And I think it returns me back to that opening slide where we think of making as a lens for theoretical reflection, and we invite you to really turn what is made into subjects of critical inquiry. So think of that kind of a yin and yang as you prepare your portfolios and applications for our MA programs. And with that, thank you all for joining tonight, and we wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.